Hey everyone, hope you're well and welcome to The Loft, and also a special thanks to everyone that's new over the last week or so. I hope you enjoy the channel and the content, but today we're going to be doing a slight new version of video that I'm looking to do if everyone likes it, which is reviewing other people's portfolio. This one is going to be someone that you're probably aware of, which is the Oracle of Omaha himself, Warren Buffett, and his company Berkshire Hathaway. If you do like this and you have any suggestions on who else I should look at, just drop it down in the comments below and I'll look to do a video on them as well. Now, this video isn't about the company itself, but if you are interested in how Warren Buffett took over Berkshire Hathaway and the development of the company and a bit of history, please do let me know down in the comments below because we can always look into doing that. But today we're mainly focusing on the publicly traded companies that they own, and we'll be going through their 13F filing from February 2021, which details all of the buys and sells they made over the previous quarter. Their next 13F filing is due to be filed around the end of May, so if you want to, we can always pop back and review that at that point as well. I'm going to be working through the list in the form of the companies that have had the biggest change in purchases, all the way down to the companies that have had the biggest change in sales. We will also then be looking at how the portfolio is structured and what percentages and ratios are for which company and their top 10 positions. So let's go and have a look at what one of the reported best investors in the world has been doing. So the first company with the most amount of change in the form of purchases was actually Verizon, ticker symbol VZ. In the last report, Berkshire Hathaway had 58,347,767 shares, which has now increased up to 146,716,496 shares, which is a change of over 150%, and this position was declared with a total value of around $8,619,594,000. Following this, we had a change in T-Mobile position by quite a substantial amount. Berkshire Hathaway's position in T-Mobile increased by 117%, and they are ticker symbol TMUS. They had shares recorded of 2,413,156 in their previous 13F filing, which has increased to 5,242,000 shares. And Berkshire Hathaway have the value of this listed as around $706,884,000. Then we have Kroger, ticker symbol KR, with an increase in share position of around 34%. Moving the share count from 24,978,439 shares up to a total share position of 33,534,017 shares, which has a filed value of around $1,065,040,000. Next, we have Merck & Co., ticker symbol MRK, who also saw some of Warren's money, jumping up around 28% in the position, moving from 22,403,102 shares up to 28,697,435 shares. This is bringing their current value to around $2,347,450,000. Next, we have Marsh & McLennan, who have a ticker symbol of MMC. They raised their position of about 27% in Berkshire Hathaway's portfolio, moving from around 3,366,507 shares up to a new position of 4,267,825 shares. This means that Berkshire Hathaway's held value in MMC is around $490,336,000. Next is a company that I hold myself, but in a much smaller position, which is AbbVie, ticker symbol ABBV. This one Berkshire Hathaway have bought a little bit more of. They've bought around 20% more shares than they previously had, moving up from 21,264,316 shares up to 25,533,082 shares. And this has a proportional value on the 13F filing of $2,735,870,000. Now, I promise we are getting near the end of the purchases for Berkshire Hathaway, and if I've been throwing too many numbers into the speech, please let me know, and then I'll make sure that I don't make that mistake again. But I want to include it so that people that may be driving, something like that, can actually listen to it while they drive or walk, and they don't have to monitor the screen, causing a car crash and making me feel like I've killed some people, which I really don't want. So moving over, we have Bristol Myers Squibb, ticker symbol BMY, who had an increase of 11%, which increased their position from 29,971,094 shares up to a new position of 33,336,016 shares. And they declared the rough total value of all of these to be at a value of $2,067,833,000. The penultimate buy for Berkshire Hathaway was a company that I hold myself in a much smaller position, which is Chevron, ticker symbol CVX, with an increase of around 9.5%, jumping from 44,272,770 shares up to a new position of 48,498,965 shares, which they've attributed a value of around $4,095,738,000. Give or take a few dollars, I imagine. And the final company that they declared purchases on their 13F filing was for Restoration Hardware, ticker symbol RH, which has an increased position of around 1.5%, give or take, moving from a total of 1,708,348 shares to a new total of 1,732,548 shares. And this brings their total estimated position of value to $775,350,000. And I am slightly interested to work out which one of the Berkshire Hathaway team bought all of these individual shares. Obviously, we just get told Warren Buffett as the manager of the fund, but he does have a few people working for him, and it would be nice to try and work out who you think bought which companies. So if you have any ideas, drop it down in the comments below and let's see what we can find out. Now, we also have 32 companies that haven't had any change at all. They haven't had any buys and they haven't had any sales. So I'm not going to include them in the spoken part of the video, but I will add a link down in the description that has a full list of all of the filing, essentially, that you can go and check out if you're interested in what the full position he holds. I will be showing it at the end of the video. I just don't want to bore everyone by reading off a load of positions that haven't changed. So let's move straight on to the ones that they've reduced position in and ditched altogether. Working down the list, the first company that we'll be looking at that they've sold some out of is US Band Corp, ticker symbol USA, and they sold out with less than 10% of their position. So the position sold, dropping their shares from 113,961,832 shares down to 131,137,998 shares, which left them with a total approximate value of $6,109,721,000. Then we had one of their largest positions, this one being Aapl, ticker symbol AAPL. They dropped their position by about 6%, dropping from 944,295,554 shares down to a much more reasonable 887,135,554 shares. So that's the 6% drop that they've got rid of there, and it's still a staggering value of $117,714,016,000. We also have General Motors, ticker symbol GM, and Berkshire Hathaway reduced their position by about 9% with General Motors, moving down to 72,500,000 shares from their previous position of 80 million shares as a nice round number. Slightly annoying, but I would have preferred the round number, but that's my OCD coming in. But this still leaves them with a ridiculous amount of money for that position, which is setting around $3,018,899,000. Next, we have a company that I'm sure you could use as a tongue twister, especially if you're drunk, which is Liberty Latin America, ticker symbol LILAC, spelled L-I-L-A-K. They had some shares sold, dropping from 1,430,197 shares down to a new position of 1,284,020 shares. So a drop of around 10% in the position for Berkshire Hathaway, which leaves them with a value of around $14,240,000 for that particular company. Then Suncor Energy, ticker symbol SU, also had their position reduced. This was around 28% of the shares that were currently held by Berkshire Hathaway being sold. They moved from a position of 19,201,525 shares down to a much more modest level of 13,849,207 shares, which gives them a positional value estimated around $232,390,000. And the final partial sale for Berkshire Hathaway was in the form of Wells Fargo, ticker symbol WFC, who had over 50% of the shares Berkshire held floated and sold back to people like us, I imagine. And this only leaves them with 52,423,867 shares from the previous highs of 127,380,440 shares, which still leaves them with a relatively impressive value of $1,582,152,000. Now we come to the companies that Berkshire Hathaway have ditched completely, kicked to the curb and left for other people to deal with. The first one here was Barrick Gold, ticker symbol ABX, which saw a steep increase. You might remember when it was initially announced that Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway were buying gold, and they have now since sold out of their positions entirely, selling their entire 12 million remaining shares. We also had a sellout of M&T Bank with ticker symbol MTB. They had around 2,919,613 shares sold, which reduced their position in Berkshire Hathaway's portfolio to nothing. Running through the last three companies fairly quickly for you, we have Pnc Financial Services, ticker symbol PNC. They had a total of 1,919,613 shares sold. Then we had Pfizer, ticker symbol PFE. Everyone knows Pfizer. Berkshire Hathaway sold out of their entire position, consisting of 3,711,780 shares. And finally, JP Morgan & Chase, ticker symbol JPM. They only had 967,267 shares, but all of them gone like the wind. Berkshire Hathaway ditched them all. So that is the overall buys and sells for Berkshire Hathaway on their 13F. So that's all of the changes as recorded in the 13F filing. So let's take a quick moment just to look at the portfolio as a whole as it stands now and see what we can find out. So we can see that Berkshire Hathaway currently hold 47 publicly traded companies listed on their 13F filing. And if we look at the actual weighted value of all of these companies, over 50% of their portfolio value is in just two companies. These two companies being Aapl and also Bank of America. If we add the value of these two companies together, we come to a staggering figure of $148,330,166,000. So if we look at the top 10 companies within Berkshire Hathaway's portfolio, we have Aapl, Bank of America, Coca-Cola, American Express, Kraft Heinz, Verizon, Moody's, US Bancorp, DaVita Healthcare, and Chevron Corporation. And we know that from his multiple interviews that both Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger are not particular fans of diversification. They're not dead set against it, but they don't see the benefit of it if you've done your research properly and you know you're buying a good company, which does make sense. And I potentially would agree if I had ridiculously large sums of money that I could throw around as well. But for general day-to-day investing with smaller sums of money, while you could get a better benefit from just sticking all of your money in one company, I do see it's a bit more of a risk if you don't have 10 million in the bank to fall back on if you lose your money on your investment. So overall, I think it is good to see what other investors do and see if there's any tips and tricks we can pick up. I wouldn't suggest copying them, but it is interesting to know what other investors are doing. And if we're going to look at other investors, why not start with the man himself, the Oracle of Omaha? So one of the last things that I wanted to touch on was their cash and cash positions, which is something I haven't included up until now. So if we do look at their cash and cash equivalents and essentially what cash they have on hand if they need it, we can see they have around $48 billion in cash and cash equivalents, which if we include that into their portfolio itself, takes up majority of the portfolio and is second only to that Aapl position. So what do you think of Warren Buffett's portfolio and the companies that he holds? Do you think some of these are dead and dying companies and it's a bit weird that he's in them? Or are they companies that you hold yourself and you're very bullish on in general? Let me know down in the comments below, and while you're there, I would really appreciate it if you can give me feedback on bits that you liked and didn't like about this particular video. It is the first one of this type that I've done, and I would like to make them better and better every single time. I'm always hoping to improve for you guys and make the video experience better. The final thing I wanted to say before I go is a special shout out and thank you to all of these fellas and ladies and fellas and people. People is a better term. And they commented daffodil on my last video because they're legends. Essentially, thank you. You guys are legends if you're on this list. If you commented daffodil and you're not on this list, you're still a legend and I'm useless. That's basically it. So thank you ever so much for sticking with me. Please give me any feedback that you have. It helps me get better and better every single time. And until next time, remember to invest, save, and subscribe.